Xbox has taken its biggest risk yet, and it may already be paying off. In today's video, we're going to be diving into what could be Xbox Game Studios' most important milestone yet, and what it means for the future of the brand we love. Welcome to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that's all about Xbox. I'm Ray, and remember, if you want to stay Xbox Ready, make sure you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to be alerted whenever I post a video. Let's discuss. Now, it was just a few short weeks ago when the community was abuzz, I should say more like on fire, over rumors that Xbox was going to port former exclusives over to other platforms like PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. This has been talked about to death, especially by me, so I'm just going to give the Cliff Notes version for those of y'all who aren't caught up yet. All of those rumors, which started from people like Xbox Era and The Verge, that culminated in a business update that was hosted on the Xbox official podcast, where Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, Sarah Bond, and Tina Amini all got together and were like, yes, we are going to port 4 games over to Switch and PS5. That started with Pentiment on Switch and PS5, Sea of Thieves is following it just on PS5, followed by Grounded and Hi-Fi Rush. And while I'm not entirely sure how well Pentiment is selling on either Switch or PlayStation, Sea of Thieves hit a huge milestone on PlayStation, of all places. Currently, as of today, when I'm filming this video, March 11th, probably going to upload this a couple days later, but as of today, Sea of Thieves is the #1 pre-ordered game on PlayStation. This is pretty crazy for a few reasons. I mean, at the beginning of this year, did anyone think that Sea of Thieves, a 6-year-old Xbox Game Studios game produced by Rare of all people, would be outselling The Rise of the Ronin, one of the only PS exclusives in this year in terms of pre-orders? Like, no, there's no way. I didn't even think Sea of Thieves was going to be on PlayStation this year, yet here we are. More people are pre-ordering Sea of Thieves on PlayStation than they are Dragon's Dogma 2, and again, Rise of the Ronin. This is exactly what Microsoft wanted when they started this whole thing, this experiment, this gamble, this risk. So many people, because of this decision, were foretelling the doom of Microsoft's gaming division, foretelling the doom of Xbox hardware. And while there are still some concerns about that, at least with Sea of Thieves, it's accomplishing exactly what Microsoft wants. The whole point of this experiment that they're doing with these 4 titles is to see that if games that reach saturation in the Xbox player base, meaning that everyone who wanted to buy it and play it did so. Again, not really sure how well Pentiment is selling on either Switch or the PS5, but there's clearly an interest in Sea of Thieves on PlayStation, and it's leading to early monetary success, at least in the pre-orders. Sure, things could change when it finally releases, and I don't know, maybe the player base falls off, maybe sales kind of taper off, but at least for now, it's a success in Microsoft's eyes. And beyond that, I'm not sure if that same success is going to apply to either Hi-Fi Rush or Grounded. Let's face it, guys, pirates, it sells. Especially when we just got one of the most disappointing pirate games ever with Skull and Bones. I'm sure a lot of people who played that are going to be like, hell yeah, let's play an actual pirate game, Sea of Thieves, where you can raid other people, go hunting for treasure, actually get off your ship and do things. But even if Hi-Fi Rush releases on PlayStation doesn't sell well, I feel like as long as 2 out of the 4 of these games sell decently on other platforms, that will absolutely open the door for Xbox to do this to more games. They said no games that are a year or younger. But if Sea of Thieves and these other games continue to sell well on other platforms, they're absolutely gonna do just that. And you have to imagine that Microsoft is specifically pumped that one of their live service games is having renewed success. There's been a lot of talk about Xbox ditching hardware, leaving hardware, and just going full third-party publisher like Sega did when they killed the Dreamcast. That's something I've been talking about since I started the channel back in 2021, before all of this news about porting over exclusives, before any of that stuff. I used to talk about it 3 years ago, and people were like, Ray, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And now it's the hot topic in the community. What can I say? I think out of all of the platform holders, Xbox is the most interested in ditching hardware. We know that they lose money on every console sold, and we know that they make a ton of money through their third-party game sales with franchises like Minecraft, Call of Duty, the whole Activision Blizzard catalog now. Now, before I go any further, before any of y'all come at me in the comments, this does not mean that tomorrow they're gonna wake up and say, you know what, every Xbox is dead, it's canceled. I'm not saying they're for sure gonna go full third-party publisher, but I'm saying this could be an important step if they decide to make that transition. It's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not going to happen tomorrow, next week, next year. I'm going with the belief that they're going to tease new Xbox hardware at the end of this year, like they said in that business update I was mentioning earlier. They said they were going to reveal next-gen consoles that represent the craziest technological leap ever seen in a console generation. I don't know exactly how that's going to pan out, but I do believe that there's going to be next-gen Xboxes, and that should take care of the existence of Xbox consoles until at least 2030. Here's how I think Xbox should handle it. If I was the king of Xbox, if I was the Phil Spencer of Xbox, one of my top concerns about modern video games, especially multiplayer ones, is the expectation that they have to continue making money off of their player base through microtransactions, battle passes, whatever. Thanks, Fortnite. And listen, I get it. When you run a multiplayer game, you have to have employees who are continuing to maintain the servers, who continue to add content to the game so the player base doesn't get bored. But battle passes, microtransactions, seasons, whatever you want to say that's related to all that, it's just the worst shit in the video game industry right now. It's what annoys me the most. I remember when I downloaded Marvel's Avengers for the first time and opened it up, and before I even got to the title screen, it was like I had to fight through like a bunch of spam and ads, because it was like, oh, buy these new costumes that you can put your heroes in. Oh, check out these new characters that you can buy. Oh, check out this new content. If you get the freaking like seasonal pass, you can get access to all of it. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to play the game. Why am I talking about this? Well, it's on my mind because of the Master Chief Collection. Now, the Master Chief Collection hasn't gotten any updates since July 2023, and nothing has been said about it. Well, Rebs Gaming on YouTube did a video about it, and he was pretty much able to confirm that they stopped support for the game entirely. As to the reason why, apparently it's because the game lacked a revenue stream. They weren't allowed to put microtransactions into the game, and other proposed revenue streams were met with fierce fan backlash. Whether or not you believe that's true, it makes complete sense to me. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in, which has me wondering, what if Xbox did it like this? They keep single-player games exclusive to Xbox, but they ship out multiplayer games to other platforms. And that includes games like Halo Infinite. I know. I get it. Xbox fans, we love Master Chief, man. It's a huge part of why we are all Xbox fans in the first place. We hold the Halo franchise near and dear to our hearts, and even the thought of shipping those games over to PlayStation, it's probably sacrilegious to a lot of people. I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for it. But hear me out. I don't want another Halo game to be over because of questionable microtransactions and revenue streams. When Halo Infinite first came out, that was like pretty much anyone was talking about. They were like, yeah, the game is fun, but doesn't have a lot of content, and oh yeah, these armor cores cost like $20. It's ridiculous. Halo Infinite was supposed to be around for 10 years. That's what they were talking about. This is a 10-year game. It's going to be around for 10 years, but only 3 years after the game launched, and they finally got it to the point where it's actually really, really good, they stopped having seasons, and they're like, oh, we're just doing like content updates, whatever, and the content updates, they're like pretty much nothing. It is not a stretch to say at all that because they couldn't figure out the live service aspect of Halo Infinite, that support is winding down for it. I don't want another Halo game to end up like the Master Chief Collection, whose support has just been entirely cut off, again, after they finally got their footing and made it good. If they make a PlayStation version and ship it out to PlayStation consoles and it actually gets some traction, in theory, there wouldn't be as much pressure on devs to squeeze every nickel and dime that they can out of the Xbox player base. Compare that to single-player games, which are notoriously hard to monetize after the point of sale. Keep games like Starfield, like Indiana Jones, like Fable, like Hellblade 2, which people are talking about porting over to PlayStation as well. Keep all of those games exclusive to Xbox, at least as long as there's an actual Xbox console. Even though Phil Spencer, Xbox leadership, they believe in a future where there's no exclusives or not as many as we see today, they need to give customers a reason to buy an Xbox console. And a good way to do that is by providing gaming experiences that you can't find anywhere else. It's kind of like what we see PlayStation doing right now. They're like, yes, we have this hit multiplayer game, Helldivers 2. That's why we released it not just on PlayStation, but on Steam as well. But as far as our single player stuff goes, we're going to keep that exclusive to our platform. And yes, I know that the majority of PlayStation owners are playing games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, FIFA, the big AAA multiplayer games. But if they want the option to play some of their exclusives like God of War Ragnarok, like Spider-Man, they have that option, whereas they wouldn't on Xbox. Xbox needs to find the equivalent of that, and some sort of balance between what they choose to port over and what they choose to keep exclusive, because right now, that decision-making seems to be all over the place. Oh yeah, the Bethesda stuff, that's going to be exclusive, but the Activision Blizzard stuff, no, that's going to be multi-plat. Same thing with the Minecraft stuff. And like, it seems like they keep changing their minds, and as fans, it's hard to keep up with. As I mentioned in my last video though, where I talked about that Peter Moore interview that he did with IGN, it's beginning to make less and less sense for Microsoft to keep certain games exclusive. If you're a corporation like Microsoft, who cares if you're selling hardware, if you're selling Xbox consoles? The Xbox is probably like one of the only successful pieces of hardware that Microsoft has ever had. Other bits of hardware that they try to venture into, like the Zune or the Windows Phone, they ended up as failures. They ended up shuttering them only a couple of years after they tried them out. It's in the name, guys. Microsoft software. That's where the majority of their success as a company comes from. Even at the peak of PC versus Mac, Microsoft wasn't like, well, we're gonna make certain programs and features exclusive to Windows and PC. No, they were like, well, let's just make a Macintosh version of Word, and you can still find it on the friggin' App Store. Even when you look at someone like Apple, who is all about their hardware, phones, Macs, MacBooks, they still make a ton of money porting their software over to other platforms and devices. You can download Apple Music on Windows, Apple TV. They don't force you to buy their hardware in order to use that software, which is the complete opposite in video games. Video games is like the only sector that does that. And I feel like it's naive to think that it's gonna stay that way and not follow the rest of tech. But before I get too deep into that rant, it's a rant that I've gone on many times in this channel. Ultimately, what I hope happens with this whole Xbox experiment, porting over their games to other platforms, hopefully they see success with their multiplayer stuff like Sea of Thieves and Grounded. They don't see so much more success with their single player stuff. Hopefully, again, this is all just me hoping, that signals to them, okay, it's worth it to port our multiplayer stuff to other platforms because it expands the player base. It just makes sense. Versus our single player stuff, it didn't really kind of give us the financial return that we were hoping for, certainly not enough to offset the cost of porting those games over in the first place. Let's keep our single player games exclusive to Xbox. Even if they decide like, hey, we want to have a multiplayer version of Halo and then we'll make single player Halo experiences. Sure, ship the multiplayer stuff to other platforms, but keep the single player stuff to Xbox. Reward your fans in some way, please. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.